Hello, friends. This is my first day trying out YouTube live on YouTube Studio. So I did Facebook for a while. I tried out Instagram, then I was back to Facebook. But I've noticed I've wanted to share these a couple of times with friends of mine who aren't on Facebook. For instance, I'm not Facebook friends with most of my current work colleagues, and a couple of them are relevant to the work that we're doing. So I figured I'd try this out and see how it went. I haven't made a YouTube video in years since I did a video every day in April, I think maybe 8 years ago. I didn't check, but it's been a while. So happy to be back here on YouTube. The topic for today is a favorite and also sometimes unfavorite topic of mine, which is making lists. So a lot of people ask me, I do a lot of different things. I stay in touch with people virtually. I pick up hobbies. I work a pretty, a job that has a lot of different things going on. I travel pretty often, stay in touch with multiple family members. And so people have asked me sometimes, like, how do you do all of that stuff? How do you keep track of it? How do you keep it straight? And I would say I have weird hair that I do. I do my hair at home. That's another random thing I do. Not you can sometimes tell. The answer, well, first of all, one of the answers is I don't have a lot of other responsibilities. Sometimes I think people forget how much time, like relationships and children take. Usually they don't, but then I don't have a lot of that time. So of course there are a lot of things that I have going for me that allow me to do a bunch of variety of things. But the other thing that I say is that I keep a pretty comprehensive list of things that I want to do. And I've done this for a very long time. I think I started keeping an agenda in middle school, and I remember a couple of times in high school I lost my agenda, and I was like, what do I do now? I don't have my list of all the things I'm supposed to do. How could I possibly remember it all? So I want to preface by saying this might not work. This advice might not work for you. Some people are list people and some people aren't. And I would just counsel you to give it a try and give some of these tips a try. Let me know if you're trying to make it work and for some reason something isn't work, because I think this is really effective for me. But if you try all of these tips and tricks and it doesn't work, you just might not be a list person, right? It's kind of the fact that I have always done it and then I've created these methods for myself kind of indicates it works for me. And if you're not a person who's done that naturally, even trying these tips might not work. So I just want to say that right from the beginning. There's no one right way to do it. I personally think that list people are in a separate camp usually from routine people. I don't think one's better or worse. I'm sure there are some people who fall in the middle of that Venn diagram, but routine people, they're like, okay, I wake up at 6 o'clock. I do yoga. Whatever. I get the kids to bed. There's things they do at specific times every day. And that is the way they front loaded a lot of these decisions about what they want to get done with their day and clear up the mind space, right? I am not a routine person. I like a certain amount of predictability, but only about a certain amount. And then I want to have more freedom and flexibility. So, an anecdote to share something like this is that I have tried several times in my life to commit to waking up at the same time 5 days a week. Like, pick a time that's early enough to get to work and just whatever it is, 7 o'clock, set my alarm for the same time every day. Not even every day, including the weekends, just every day, 5 days a week. I cannot do it. I cannot do it. It doesn't make sense to me because sometimes I won't have my meetings won't start till 10:30. And so then I want to stay up late the night before, but I still want to get my full night's sleep. And I'm like, what's the point of getting less than my 8 hours to wake up at 7 when technically I could sleep until 8:15, right? And then sometimes I don't finish work. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to go to bed a little bit early and I'm going to wake up at 6:15 because I just can't finish this thing right now. So I really want flexibility in my life. And that makes it very hard for me to stick to any routine that is not absolutely necessary. I don't eat meals at the same time every day. I don't wake up and go to bed at the same time every day. even my exercises, I do exercises online. That's another topic. I have to have like a calendar that makes sure I only do the same exercise video no more than a couple times a year, because I don't even want to do the same like exercise video a couple times a week, right? I don't like it. And for me, then the answer to that is lists. So if you're a routine person and you do really well with saying, you know what, I'm going to just wake up 15 minutes earlier and do this thing that I wanted to do, you can stop watching this video because it's not probably for you. But for me, lists are kind of the alternative to a routine. It allows me to stay sane and offload those tasks, those sort of intrusive thoughts of like, oh, did you pay your bills? Oh, did you call that person you meant to call? Oh, did you clean the shower, whatever. It keeps them out of your brain and clears up your brain for whatever it needs to be doing at that moment. Because as soon as you have a thought of something that you need to do, it goes on your list, and then it goes on your list, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. Your brain can go back to being calm. I find it anxiety reducing because you don't have to feel like, what am I forgetting? Wake up this morning and be like, what am I doing today? Once somebody told me that some people come into work and they don't necessarily have an already made to-do list for that day of what they're supposed to do. I'm like, how would you even function? It's so foreign to me. You can't be productive if you spend an hour at the beginning of every day trying to figure out what it is you're supposed to be doing, right? So here are a couple of tips that I like to use when keeping lists that make sure to, I think, maximize most of the positives of list keeping and decrease some of the negative aspects of list keeping. I'm not perfect by any means, but this is what works for me. So the first thing in the sort of do category, if I was editing this later, I would have like do and don't on the screen, but I probably won't edit it later, is to make sure to put stuff on the list that's fun and easy to check off. So my uncle is a very wise man. I hope he's watching this. He'll get a kick out of that. Used to tell me he writes a to-do list every morning when he gets to work. And the first two items are get coffee, write to-do list. Right? By the end, gets his coffee, sits down, he writes his to-do list. He can check two things off right at the beginning. I think that's great. It creates a little bit of a sense of momentum that, and a little bit of levity, that the list is not some like taskmaster staring down at you, that it's a sort of more of a representation of all the things you do. And if you put some easy things on there, it gives you that momentum and you get that ding of checking something off, that sort of endorphin hit in your brain. So some of the things on my to-do list are very quick and easy, even every day. Like every day, I try to take 2 breaks to do jumping jacks throughout the workday. And they're both separately on my recurring to-do list. And it only takes a minute and then I get to ding, check it off, right? So that's one thing I would highly recommend. And the sort of don't that corresponds with that is don't put tasks on your to-do list that are too big. Because what will happen, I'm not perfect at this, but what will happen is you will constantly work around and or move that item. And every time you see it, you'll be like, ugh, because it's too big to do in a single day or a single sitting. And you just constantly feel discouraged by it. So what you should do with those bigger tasks are break them into as small of tasks as you possibly can. So for instance, I don't put every year when it's, January, I don't put file taxes on my to-do list. I actually put, this year I think it was a 5-part, put 5 separate to-do lists on it. The first one was, gather all my W-2s and assorted things I've been sent into my Google Docs folder called Taxes 2019. And the second one was sign up for my H&R Block account and make sure that everything's working. And the third one was input my documents. And the fourth one was actually file taxes. And the fifth, I don't remember what the fifth one was, state taxes or something like that. Each of those items then could be done in a short period of time. And I could lay them out every day or every other day throughout a period of time. And it's less overwhelming. You get more of a sense of motion and it's more realistic. So instead of looking at that and going, oh, I don't have time to file my taxes today. I'm moving it. Great. Okay. 10 minutes. Get all my stuff organized and together. A lot of times, even the first item on the to-do list, this was the item on my to-do list before I broke it up into those 5 tasks, was literally put tax filing tasks on my to-do list. That was its own item and I kept moving it all of like February. I moved it for a couple of weeks because it wasn't urgent. But that was the task, not file taxes, but break up the tasks and put them on my calendar. And then slowly but surely, the taxes get done, right? So highly recommend keeping that in mind. All right, my second to do is to find a good app that you can use to track your to-do list. And the corresponding don't just write random to-do lists on scraps of paper. Now, some people have said that, oh yeah, I don't have one to-do list, I have 20 to-do lists. And my thought is, well, no wonder they're not working, because the whole point of a list is to get it off your mind and calm that anxiety and make sure you have everything in one place. So when you're saying, where was that? Where was I supposed to do? What day did I say I was going to do that? You know exactly where to go. So having an app, I have been using Wunderlist, WUNDERLIST.com, but they're retiring it soon. And I think it's going to become Google To Do or something. But there are several that you can search, and search integrated to-do list, task manager. There are a lot of them there because it's not too complicated of software that you can then access on the cloud. So you can access it on your phone anywhere you have a computer, because you really want that one-stop shop. You do not want to be like, well, here's my list for work and here's my list, because all of a sudden, if you can't trust that you have all your lists, it doesn't matter if you wrote a list with 5 things on it and that you lost it. Now you can't trust your list, right? So you're not going to get that mental benefit. So that is my second recommendation. Plus, you want to be able, anytime you think of something, you want to be able to put it on your list. When you're out doing grocery shopping and you're like, oh yeah, I remembered I have to do this. You want to be able to get into your task list on your phone, because otherwise you'll forget it. And then you'll be like, what was that thing? And again, it won't be doing its job. And the third thing I would recommend is to put your fun stuff on it. I personally, sometimes when it's like, people have been telling me to watch Fleabag for a while, and it's actually on my list of things to do. I think it's on my list of things to do for Saturday. Calling friends or family members, texting friends or family members who I know I want to keep in touch with. I have like a recurring reminder, like check in on your sister, or check in on your mom, or check in on your grandma, right? Like those things can be fun and enjoyable, but you can still lose track of them. Or sometimes it's nice to just say, you know what, I'm scheduling in even my fun. You know what, I put it on my list that I want to watch this particular show, and I want to watch one episode of it every day for the next 10 days. Well, watch episode of that show on your to-do list, because it's part of living your life, right? Don't put only your entertainment on your to-do list. But if you're having trouble finding time to fit your entertainment in, do a serious, solid look at it and say, what am I prioritizing? What am I prioritizing watching or spending time doing? Do I want to have time to work on my fragrance creating? Put it on the list as something you want to do. Then it's there right with your house maintenance tasks and your work tasks to do, right? Now, I personally do have 2 to-do lists. I have a work to-do list and a personal to-do list. And you can maintain those however you want. The last thing that I will recommend that you do, and I'm actually terrible at it and I'm trying to get better at it, is to limit the number of things on every day. So the nice thing about having an app is you can have a to-do list, you can set due dates, and then you can set the due date in the future. So even though there might be 80 things on your list of things to do, you can limit which of them are due each day. So I actually kind of groom my to-do lists every couple days to make sure that I have no more than 7 items transitioning over to my work to-do list for the next day, and no more than 7 independent items transitioning over to my personal list. I picked 7 because I read somewhere that you can only do 7 things in one day. Really, actually, the way that I'm breaking it is that I technically have 7 work things, 7 personal things, and then I also have 7 like daily things, right? Things that some people would just do naturally and remember. I have on my to-do list, like writing a daily journal entry, doing my daily yoga, doing those jumping jacks I mentioned, all the other things that I try and do every day. So there's about 7 of those. So actually, I'm trying to do 21 things every day, and also sleep 8.5 to 9 hours, which means I'm trying to do 21 things in 15 hours, which doesn't always work out great. Sometimes ends up with me feeling kind of at the end of the day like I can't catch up. So I'm counseling you there to make sure that your list stays manageable. So I'm trying to get mine down to a smaller number, keep the 7 at work, but then try to, stick for a solid 7 to 10 max things I can do, whether they're repeating or not, to kind of break the tyranny of the to-do list. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. Let me know if you have favorite to-do list tips, or if you're a routine person, how you've gotten your routine to stick, because I'm very curious, whether it's natural for you or whether it's something that you've developed. And let me know. I'd love to talk about it. Happy Thursday.